Live from the Green Room Studios, from the spacious property of Bates Nursery and Garden Center, 3810 Whites Creek Pike, it's the At Home Show with Josh Cary and David Bates.
Yes, and good morning, everyone. As you can see, Josh Cary is not here today, but we have upgraded from JC to JB. Oh. Joy Bowman. Good
Hello.
Morning, Joy. Welcome in today. So good
Morning,
to see
Joy.
you.
Good morning.
Good
Happy
morning
to
to
be
you,
here.
Tyler. And we're
Morning, David.
glad to have all constituents aboard. Josh is away. Perhaps we'll hear from him. He is in an isolated location. I'm not sure it's the Groom Lake facility, but wherever it is, the cell and internet connectivity is not all that, as Tyler pushes some remote to do something. Perhaps he's connecting
You'll
to
never
Josh.
know.
He's connecting to the Josh connection. Who knows? But we're welcome in, and we appreciate you checking in and see what we've got going on today. We're here on the At Home Show. We're here every Saturday morning, by the way, to talk about what you want to talk about: landscaping, home improvement, and we've got an array of talent today, not the least of which is Joy. And so tell us what's going on, Joy, briefly in the perennial land, because that's the area that you typically are in.
Yes.
And it's the in addition to perennials, you also specialize in our lead expert in natives. So what you got to tease about that maybe we might talk more about as we get through the show this morning?
Well, I will say that usually in the past, August has been my least favorite month because it's so hot and miserable. But now it's one of my favorites because the pollinators are out in droves. So there's butterflies and hummingbirds everywhere in the perennial area, and everything's blooming and looks great. And we're gearing up for a lot more shipments to come in the next couple weeks. So it's just kind of preparing, keeping everything looking nice and anticipating all that good-looking stuff coming in.
Well, as it turns out, our hot and miserable weather was in June this year, and June and August, for whatever reason, seemed to have flip-flopped. But Tyler, let's quickly flip down to the other end of the studio and bring in our ever-present cast members. We've got Austin Lowen, Caroline Gant. Good morning to you guys.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Now, I understand one of you have not had coffee. We'll perhaps let
Which one? Can y'all
try
guess?
We'll see
Just
which
look at
one.
us and see which one.
We'll see if it's obvious which one does not have coffee as we go through the program, but we're glad to have you guys in this morning, and you got things looking pretty festive down there, actually on both ends, on our end as well. But so what's on your mind today?
Well, you said it. Festive is happening. We're getting into that pumpkin spice latte season.
Oh,
almost.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
It
the
seems like
flavor of my creamer.
Joy's already started. Joy's a trendsetter, and she does it early, and we here at Bates get our stuff early too, and we've already got it. So we've got a lot of ornamental stuff out in front of us, ornamental cabbage and kale, a lot of seasonal color to fill some containers for the rest of your season. And also, we got cool season veggies this week. So all this stuff is, just ornamental. You're not really going to eat any of this. But we have all of this that you can eat. And they're going to be mainly in like 4-packs or 6-packs. And you're going to set them out in the garden. And it's about time to get going on that. So we've got our first round this week. And I think next week we'll even get more and more to come after that. So,
It's always challenging to get your head wrapped around the thought that if you're going to have cool season vegetables that produce in the fall, you got to get them out while the weather is still hot. And this is really the tough part, is getting them in the ground. It's a lot easier, particularly in the fall, I would say, starting with actual plants as opposed to seed, because the seed are so persnickety and it's so difficult to keep them from jumping and getting spindly at this time of year. The plants really give you an opportunity to be able to get those in the ground and have nice, short, stocky plants that are going to grow off, whether it's spinach or cabbage or kale or cauliflower, any of those cool season type of plants. A lot easier to get them started right now from plants than it is to try to do it from seed.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely, and it's good to get them out, like you said earlier. Good, like warm daytime temps are really nice, and then some cooler nighttime temps are really good for those cool season crops. So it's really, August has been weird. David mentioned it. We flip-flopped this year, June to August. August has been great. I mean, August is literally usually our hottest month, and it hasn't been. Night temps have been nice. I've been sitting outside at night with a long sleeve on or a hoodie on.
Cozy.
Yeah.
With your pumpkin spice latte, maybe.
That's
yeah.
me.
Yeah,
That's
Joy.
Joy.
I haven't done the pumpkin spice yet.
I haven't had coffee yet.
Oh, it's you.
Yeah,
and that's a voice we haven't heard today, Caroline Gate. Good morning, Caroline. We appreciate you
morning.
tuning in, and we're as the program goes on, she'll actually engage and awaken and become a part of the program. I bet you
Like a
have
flower
questions.
opening in the morning. Yes, I do.
But we haven't even looked at the weather yet, David. Are we doing that? What's the weather?
Yeah, nighttime
We're all
temps.
wondering.
Yeah, I've got the
65.
weather ready to go. And thank you, Austin, for keeping me somewhat engaged. You know, without Josh here, I lose my little way, and I forget exactly what I'm doing. And of course, today is Saturday. It is this is the 20th of August. It is getting by quickly, folks. 69 degrees here at Bates Nursery Station in the green room, and we've got a chance of thunderstorms today. That's kind of the case every day, in case you didn't know it in August. But not too much of a chance later in the afternoon. Maybe 0.08 of an inch. Could be a shower tomorrow. A slightly greater chance, perhaps maybe as much as 1/3 of an inch. We will see what happens. And as usual, those storms are hit and miss. We'll check the radar here in just a second. So we go through the rest of the week. We're looking to see mostly sunny conditions, a few clouds along the way. Really no talk of rain. It does warm just a bit into the lower 90 range, which is very seasonable. And so, all things considered, it's a very typical August forecast, kind of uneventful, which we like that. Look at the this is kind of the whole eastern U.S. view, and you'll see that there are some storms here across the central northern Alabama, back out west into Missouri. There's something going on out here in the Atlantic Ocean, but just don't go out there. Anyway,
Pay no mind.
Don't go to Kitty
just
Hawk.
pay no mind to that ocean out there. That's not where we are today. So anyway, looks like we've got a really good chance to have a nice day, and it's a pleasant start. Not quite as cool as it was last week at the beginning, about 10 degrees warmer, but still quite pleasant at 68 degrees here in the Music City. So there we have gotten the weather out of the way, and we're back on track now. So without further ado, let's go to Caroline and see where the questions take us. What do you say, Caroline?
I'd say it's time. I've almost finished my cup of coffee, so I am ready.
Oh, she's getting
she's
there.
wide awake now. I hope y'all are prepared. All
All
right.
right.
Question number 1. Lost the leader on a Leland cypress. Will it regrow? Anything I can do to help? Huh.
Good question. No, there's not much you can do to help. And then, yes, it will regrow. All plants do. A lot of plants in nature, what happens whenever a young tree gets topped by a deer or some sort of human comes by and tops it out to kind of get rid of the weed situation you got, whatever. It doesn't matter. Nature is a good way of fixing that. So, yes, it's going to top out, and then it's going to have a new stem that's going to turn up, and it's going to make a new leader. You might even get a double leader. This happens a lot as well. Whenever you top it out, sometimes you'll see both buds crack at the top, and then it'll make 2 main stems. The only thing if you want to keep a main stem system, then if you do see it regrow 2 stems, then you might want to remove the weakest one and let the one just go and kind of be your new main stem. So it happens. It happens out here a lot. We handle a lot of plants, and sometimes things break. And whenever they do, we just kind of clean it up and get rid of it, and then we'll see new growth happen. So very common, good question. It will regrow.
Perfect. Great.
And the
Is
one
that
thing
it?
that people need, the one thing people need to be mindful of whenever you have that situation is, and as Austin already discussed, it's not the end of the world for that plant. You do need to be kind of making a decision, because normally when the top dies out for whatever reason, it could be a canker, which is a very, very likely problem in a Leland cypress. You can have a terminal leader or any branch die off due to canker. And if that is the case, if you have seen this swollen area down below there, you need to go down well below that and prune that out and destroy that. You don't want to leave that lying around. You don't want it to have the opportunity to possibly infect other parts of the same plant or others that you have. That's kind of the big problem with Leland cypress, that they're a little temperamental. They're very susceptible to a variety of things. For future reference, green giant arborvitae, while is not completely devoid of issues, certainly is much less than a Leland cypress. So if you start having to replace those, you might consider using that as an alternative plant. And it has a very similar look. And over the course of time, unfortunately, you likely will have the opportunity to change those out, because Leland cypress are really persnickety. If they made it through June this year, which is the hard part, usually August is the difficult part, but not so much this year. We've had more rain and cooler temperatures, so hopefully they're going to be able to grow back out and make you a nice looking plant.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Great answers, everyone. On to question number 2.
Thank you, Caroline.
You're so
Appreciate
welcome. You're so welcome.
that positive reinforcement. We really appreciate
Yep,
that.
I like to. Here we go. Any recommendations for keeping armadillos away and moles?
Armadillos.
I know I had an armadillo problem the year I started here, and they were not fun at night. They kept me up. They destroyed my front porch. They knocked my furniture over. The only way I'm not. No, it was 3 nights of pure torture. They were not scared of us. When I went outside, they would turn into little rocks and just lay there. And then as soon as we went back, they would start all over again. Eventually, my husband got a bunch of trash can lids and made a bunch of noise and
scared them away.
Literally chased them off of our property. So maybe someone else has some better suggestions for that.
Yeah, I think more have had
A dog.
success.
We have 2
with
dogs. Didn't work.
More have had success with the witness relocation program approach, which is, of course, using a have a heart type trap to capture them. You know, unlike other varmints, you can't trap them putting like a food type of bait in there. Really, you use a couple of boards that you will use a funnel effect, and you try to set the trap in a area that you believe they are traversing in, and they'll simply walk along the board right into the trap and set it off. That's the way they roll. They don't have particularly great eyesight. They're more of a their biggest senses are, as you've already stated, are hearing and smell. They're all the time digging for grubs and the various things that they like around. Now, once you've captured one, then it gets interesting as to where you're going to go with it. And as long as somebody gives you permission,
Alabama.
Alabama is
Take it
one
to
spot
that
from whence they cometh, I
Stop it
guess.
right now. My family is
armadillos
from there, and so is
are
Tyler.
on the track to continue to go north and west. So, everybody's going to have them as the climate continues to warm. They seem to be really happy just to repopulate and continue moving. So you might get rid of them temporarily. That's all it's going to be, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
What about moles?
Moles.
That was the second part.
But,
Moles, on the other hand, are a little tricky. There are, products you can buy to help out with moles, little baits to kind of help, find them, finding their tunnels. They make little burrows in the ground, and you can see
yet
them.
another family member, mole baits.
Yeah.
Oh man,
They're everywhere.
Yeah.
I like the advice I got from an older landscaper in the community who said the best way to get rid of a mole is to go out 4 o'clock in the morning with a knife.
No.
Yeah. You're kind of right. My father-in-law, he's a very patient man, and he will literally walk on top of all of his hills and find and listen for them to make noise, and then he goes in and with a shovel and one quick little.
He's got better hearing than
Wow.
I've got.
I know, seriously, he's a very patient man. So
my brother Mark will walk them down, and he'll see where they are, and he'll take a garden hose and flush out in behind them, and they'll come up on top of the ground, and then he does whatever he does
Yeah.
with them.
Yeah.
And I have no details on that, but that at least gets them above the subterranean level where you can deal with them.
Yeah, because they do some damage, especially on new plantings and especially like small plantings, say perennial stuff, annual stuff. They can really wreck stuff pretty good whenever plants are young. They're not all that bad of a problem with like bigger plants too much. I've got a mimosa tree in the yard actually, and I've got a mole that's like right around it. Yeah, it's a. Hey, don't. Did you say something about my mimosa, Joy?
Don't do it.
It's a chocolate mimosa. It's cool. It's getting big.
Beautiful.
It's growing.
Tropical, and I love them. And they've been my favorite trees since I was a wee little thing.
Okay.
But every time I walk out there and I see there's always like a new mole tunnel around the roots, and I always go out there and I just stomp them down, get it back pressed in firmly. And like I said, I haven't seen any issues with the top part of the plant, so hopefully it's not that bad. But I do know people have issues with moles. I mean, you can have a whole yard and have a lot of moles there. It's not fun.
A priority on turf in their landscape.
Oh, yeah.
Are the ones who are most affected by moles because they just make a mess. I mean, and you're going to have a battle that you almost can't win. There's a whole lot of ways to fight them. Not any of them are particularly wonderful. They're just one of the things you have to kind of learn to deal with. And seemingly, the more pride you take in your garden, the more likely you are to attract them because they love night crawlers and earthworms. And when you attract those, you're going to also attract those who feed on those organisms. And that's moles primarily, and to a lesser extent, armadillos. So that's just the way it is.
That's life.
Just learn to deal with it. That's what we have to do.
That's right.
Maybe you'll have an armadillo party at night like I did. So our next question, we're going to keep on with the creature questions. This is kind of a cuter one. I mean, depending on
Birds.
your... How did you know, Joy?
I'm psychic.
Birds eating all my figs before they ripen. Help.
That's not cute.
That's not cute. But I
Just
bet
let
it
'em
looks a
have it.
little bit cute.
Plant a blueberry and they'll eat those instead. Although
Oh.
they fruit at different times.
Yeah.
Do a what else? What other fruits?
You know,
Two cropper
I
raspberry or blackberry.
I fight this problem constantly, and the only way to really do it is if you had a structure that you build over your figs, from all the way across the top, all the way to the ground, all the way around. Because I can't figure out which are worse, the squirrels or the blue jays.
Mockingbirds?
Once word gets out, they talk amongst themselves, and everybody knows. And I've got my fig right now is being attacked, and I can always tell when they're testing them. I can see the little scratch marks on the fruit where they take their beak and rake across it. So I know those are the birds. Of course, the squirrels would just chomp into it, and there'll be a little bite mark out of it. I will tell you, this is just me. Whenever a squirrel is bitten into one and it still ripens, I just cut that part out and go ahead and eat it. I'm not giving it all up to them because they touched it. I'm sorry. I love figs too much, and I have to have them. So when you've got a plant, I would estimate mine probably has maybe 400 a year in total. It'll produce twice. Somebody's making noise down there. Joy is cutting her eyes over. So
Tyler?
anyway,
You okay?
I'm fine. I'm invisible.
so yes, he is. He has control over that as well. But figs and everybody seems to love figs, and that's the only problem I see with them. Other than that, you actually should have one in every landscape if you've got a sunny spot, because they're a great fruit and they're easy to grow. Everybody seems to like them. So hopefully you can come up with a way to completely put netting over them and keep the birds out. Renee bought some little netting pouches, which I don't think they will work very well because they'll just peck right through that nettings. It's a difficult dilemma. It's either that or just plant so many that they can't possibly get them all, which is the other approach.
You can share.
Can share,
Kinda share your
become a
fruit
bird
with.
haven.
And that's a good point. I think we do need to make, and this is with all fruits. I've got some birds right now that are kind of swooping in on some of my ripened tomatoes, and which is common. Birds don't care too much. They're going to get a lot of different things. But to David's point, don't just give up on the fruit. You got to, 90% of your tomatoes still good and red and tasty. So just cut off what they bid on and eat the rest of it. It's, or even blemishes. You have bad spots on a tomato or a pepper, whatever. Just cut them off. The rest of it's good. Just don't give up on the fruit just because there's a bad spot in it, okay?
Although I will admit it does bug me that they seem to want to that they seem to want to peck holes in all of them. Mm-hmm. They can't just take one and concentrate on it. If they could just say, look, this is the one we're going to eat until it's gone, and then we'll move on. But they don't do it that way. They peck holes in all of them. So therefore, to your point, Austin, you need to get comfortable with just cutting those spots out and eating them, because I'm not going to give them all to them just because it's got a little blemish or a spot or a little injury place on it.
Yeah, no, don't do that.
Don't do it.
Be okay with imperfection in the plant world, okay?
Ooh,
this
that's
is
deep.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
With leaves, with fruit, all of it. You're going to see some issues.
Love.
It happens.
Joy loves. Did you just say I love?
I said
Life and love.
life and
I
love.
thought you
and
said
love.
I love.
Be okay with imperfections.
That's right.
Yes. I did have some raccoons. They ate every single one of my melons this year.
Oh.
Cleaned them out. I didn't have any fruit left.
Raccoons love
Broke a little
cantaloupes.
hole in them, scraped out the insides like
What
tiny
kind of
little
melon?
monsters.
Cantaloupe.
Thank you. Cantaloupe. And watermelon. They probably destroyed 9 in one night and ate every single piece of fruit inside that melon. Yeah, it was wild.
I feel like the animal community is the perfect indicator of ripeness.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
They,
And
were,
also-
they
Yes.
were ready to go.
Yeah, it's telling
Yeah,
you should have
berries too.
uh-huh.
In
Yep,
the wild.
you just missed it.
harvested the day before.
Well, they got one, and then I was like, okay, well, I'll get them tomorrow, and then tomorrow they were
Yeah.
gone. So yeah,
They brought the party.
they did. They brought all their friends. I'm okay with that. I couldn't have eaten. all
Hey,
those
you know
melons.
what? Part of the problem with growing things well is that you're going to produce fruit, if that is indeed a problem. But one of the ways to make sure that you have as much production in your garden as possible, and to have your things growing where you can have a competitive advantage, at least to equalize and level the playing field, so to speak, is to use Earth Mix garden products for your plantings. When you do that, you're going to get the very best and most prolific results out of your plants, be it garden plants. We're talking, Austin led off the show talking about our cool season vegetables that are coming in. Maybe you want to get some Earth Mix Supernatural to re-energize your garden spot before you plant those. It's a great choice. Maybe you're starting from scratch and you just want to plant in there. You can just use Earth Mix Garden and plant directly into that without any mixing at all. And if you're doing a landscape project, of course, Earth Mix Landscape is the way to go. It's the premium soil conditioner for all things that you're going to plant that are ornamental and otherwise. So regardless of which product you're interested in, there is an Earth Mix product that will fit well and do what you want to do. And you can find Earth Mix all over. Just go to earthmix.net and click on the Find Earth Mix tab in the top right corner there, and it will take you to the page that has all of the various dealers around Middle Tennessee, Kentucky, up into Indiana and Ohio. You see them all there, so you can zoom in or put your address in on any one of those. Additionally, Tyler's added some really good features where there's a calculator feature on there where you can determine how much or how many bags you need. And if you go on a dealer by dealer basis, you can actually tell which of the Earth Mix products that they carry. And that's at the bottom of this page here where you go to find Earth Mix. And I won't try to get there because it's too much scrolling. So, but one thing for sure, if you want to get your best results, begins at the ground level, and that's when you use Earth Mix garden products. So there's a lot to read on the site, some great information on there. Nora McGarry has done some great writing with regard to many of these specific products. One of our newest is Earth Mix Relief, which is our pure leaf compost. So if you're wanting to stay completely, I mean, natural. It has no additives. It is just composted leaves. So Earth Mix Relief would be the product for you. Check them all out at earthmix.net, and please patronize all of the wonderful suppliers who carry Earth Mix products all around. So Earth Mix Garden Products. Check it out. So there's that. Thank you for giving us a moment to discuss that and how to, growing plants well is how you can have the luxury of having what I call a good problem of having lots of fruit and trying to determine how to divvy that up between us and nature, Joy. And it's not, that is really what I would call a high quality problem. Would you agree?
I would agree.
And of course,
Sharing is caring.
all of our little creatures that are attracted to the natives, which is one of the areas of your expertise, are benefit from growing and doing well and providing those flowers and fruit for the fauna that happens to come along. Mm-hmm. That's not a good answer. Don't disagree with me. Elaborate on that.
Yeah, I mean, fall is such a unique and special time specifically for birds. 50% of the what consists in our native berries is what they need to sustain. It's fat, so it sustains them as they're making their migrations, as opposed to our non-native ornamentals that are very low in that fat content. And so that's a main one of a big push for why we need to be planting more natives is how much they just support our birds and other species that are.
And I obviously am a native because I have a high fat content.
Well, also too, Joy, to your point, I guess other things that birds eat, which is insects, and when we plant natives, we get those native insects that get onto those plants, and we have to, as people, once again, be okay with that imperfection with our native plants. Okay, that's the whole point of planting them is for our pollinators, and what. Before a butterfly is a butterfly, what is it? It's a caterpillar, and it eats leaves, y'all. That's what it does to its native host. So a number of shrubs and plants that we plant that, insects are very specific to eating, and we have to be okay with them taking some of those leaves so they can get fat enough and strong enough to metamorphosize into that beautiful butterfly that we all love to see to help pollinate to help pollinate everything. So that's just another point. And then, the birds get to feed on some of those insects as well. It's a whole ecosystem. It's all of it.
Yeah. We know so little about it, but it's just all we need to know is that we need to support it and do what we can.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And, this is the time of year when you get to see really large specimens of things like grasshoppers and praying mantis. And, they become... when they're very young, it's kind of like, oh, yeah, it's a bug. But when they get a little more age and get some size to them, you go, well, that's an actual creature that's filling some niche in the ecosystem, even if we don't fully understand it. So I can't, from my perspective, I can't bring myself to do away or make that decision, which is beneficial and which is not. I just know if one's lived to be that big, it must be doing something right. It must be something that it's adding. And if it chews on the leaf or two here and there, no big deal.
Yeah, just let it be. I think Anne, one of our favorite coworkers here who sits in the office and answers phone for us, she's great. She's been on vacation this past week, and she listened to a talk from an entomologist about insects and our native oaks around here. And she wrote us all a text message that talked about what he said whenever it comes to oak trees and seeing insects in them. Insects love oak trees, okay? Mainly caterpillars, but all sorts of insects are on oak trees. And there's a lot of, tent caterpillars or fall webworms that you're starting to notice this time of year. There'll be chunks of a web inside of a tree, that'll be filled with worms, and they feast on the leaves that are beneath that tent. And the guy said, get up there and look at it, and then, if you decide, what do you want to do about it? What did he say? Take 10 steps back.
Take 10 steps back,
and then you can't see it anymore.
Yeah, and that guy was Doug Tallamy, by the way.
Okay. He's famous, right? He's a famous speaker.
Yes, he's very popular right now in the native world. And in our region, oaks host 432 Lepidoptera species.
Good Lord.
Whoa.
Wow.
The hostess with the mostest.
That's right. And so, yes, just be okay with that, y'all. Let it be. Let that one tent in that, or 2 or 3, tents in the tree. Let that be. Let that finish out. You don't have to get rid of that and kill all of those bugs on this massive 60-foot oak tree or whatever it is. It's just part of it. It's nature. Look at it. Love it. Go up to those fall webworms. It's really fun. I've done this before. Go to it.
No.
Get real close.
You really love it.
Hold my beer.
Get real close to those worms. They'll be real They'll be real still, and then go up to it and go. Ah! Just kind of disturb them, and then they all just start moving and shaking and going crazy. It's a cool thing to do.
Sneaking
So
up
do it with your
with
kids.
nature.
Let them see. I mean,
I do that with my dog.
See,
Nature party.
it's fun. So let that stuff be.
It's fun to
Let
scare
our
things.
natives be.
I have to add one thing that was a delight to see is when I slowly add to the plants in my garden space, what little creatures kind of just all of a sudden show up. Like I didn't have praying mantis in my garden until I had certain plants that they like to feed off of the things that feed off of that plant. And I planted some native Fothergilla and Amsonia, and you just slowly see more skippers, more moths, and they just kind of create this own little habitat.
Yep.
And that can spread outward as you populate the rest of your space, or just even the little corners that maybe you wouldn't consider putting something in there, but maybe you put a native shrub there and it fills it up, and then they have their own little corner, and you just do your thing. I feel like you might not have other humans living with you, or maybe you do, but largely. But then
Maybe
you're
that's the point.
You've got all these other little things on your property, and you're all communing together, and it just feels like a little community.
It's a good point. Bad bugs bring in good bugs. This happens, y'all, and then you get this nice little. If you have an aphid, aphids are the most common insect pest, probably. They do minimal damage. They really do. I mean, unless you have massive, populations of them, they don't do that much of damage. So if you have a little aphid population, what that's going to bring in is good bugs, which are like ladybugs or praying mantis or things that eat those bugs. So.
Lacewing.
Yeah, not getting rid of those, not just spraying chemicals all over the place to get rid of a small little colony of aphids is a good practice to get a healthy environment going on in your garden, not just a...
Many times I have seen, since we don't use pesticides or things such as that here at Bates Nursery, we may use on occasion like insecticidal soap or neem oil, those kinds of things. But generally, we try to let Mother Nature take care of it. I have seen aphids really cover up some plants at times, and a single lady beetle completely clean one plant off overnight. I mean, they could eat 50 or 60 of those overnight, and you might think, well, gosh, they'll never get them all. Trust me, they got nothing else going on. They're going to just they'll just keep eating until they're gone.
Yeah,
and then they'll move on to something else. So you're absolutely right, Austin. Sometimes what we interpret as a problem gets corrected if we'll just give Mother Nature a chance to do her magic.
We often do more harm by trying to do something anyway.
Exactly.
Yes.
You start
Story
spraying
of
on
humanity,
stuff.
really.
Yeah, you start spraying stuff. You start spraying and killing them good bugs that you really want to have in the garden. We don't want to do that. So,
and I like Tyler's point about gradually introducing more and more natives to different areas to kind of be able to determine what different plants are bringing in and what other things that they're contributing to the overall garden. So that's another great thing to think about.
Can I add one more thing about natives?
You can add whatever you want to add,
Okay,
Joey.
so 90% of insect
Anything.
90% of insect herbivores are considered specialists, which they've evolved to eat specific plants. And I can see right here, just a little. This is a pawpaw. Over there, which is a host for the zebra swallowtail, and the only host for the zebra swallowtail. So it's something to also keep in mind that they don't eat all the natives. They eat specific natives that they've evolved with. So so that cute little butterfly that we all love, zebra swallowtail, that's the only thing it can eat.
yeah.
So
Caterpillar.
Now, Joey,
So if you see
people
one of those-
are wanting to attract a variety of things in their garden, might they come out and have a conversation with you and
Please.
say, hey, I would like to have this specific attractant in my garden, you would be able to direct them.
Yep, and we've done several webinars on the topic, so they can go through our YouTube or on our website and kind of source them that way, and to learn additional information that's more condensed
And
than me
I'm
talking
glad
to them for an hour.
You
Which I will
segued into that because, as you mentioned, there's a lot of great information we put out on a regular basis, and the primary players of that. This is not everybody, but the primary players are right here in the studio this morning. And
Shout
of
out to
course,
Ben Trest.
Ben Trest adds a lot as well. I was just getting ready to say that. So they are, no matter what your subject matter is, go out to our YouTube site or out to batesnursery.com, and you can see all of our webinars there about almost any subject. I think we've got, I don't know how many videos we've got.
We're probably closing in on 100 now.
Right. So chances are we've covered a topic, and if there's a topic that we haven't covered, let us know, and we'll put our heads together and see about getting some information out on that. I know Joy has done some great ones on natives as well as perennials, and Caroline does a lot of things with regards to tropicals, and of course Austin kind of is our general utility guy who talks about all kinds of things. So check all those out. And Tyler is the ever-present voice in the background, or the little face in the screen that pops in from time to time as the color commentator. He adds filler content and fleshes everything out. So yeah, make sure you check those out. They are well worth your time.
The glue.
All right. Before we
What
move
else
on,
we
real
got
quick.
there?
One other thing.
What?
Caroline has an Intro to Houseplants webinar next week. We've never done an Intro to Houseplants webinar.
Oh,
And it's happening.
That's
and it's going to
crazy.
go for 3 hours.
If you want a basics ground level introduction that you can completely waste your day watching. I'm just kidding.
Whoa, Tyler.
No,
You might have brought me a
That was
breakfast burrito
uncalled
this
for,
morning.
Tyler.
I'm joking. I'm playing with her. So
I'm going to walk out right now.
3 hours.
she's had her caffeine now. Don't,
I have.
Don't
I'm
be
ready
talking
to
to her
go.
that way.
Okay.
Don't you do it.
I'm sorry. I did a boo-boo.
You're not
I
that far away
apologize.
from me right now. It might look like it on camera.
She's
but
going
you're
to
pretty
jump
close.
across the room. and
Austin,
hit
your
me.
turn.
Like a little
So,
cat.
Austin had a transplanting webinar, and Ben last week had a cover cropping webinar, and Joy had Planning for Pollinators 201, which is I highly recommend for basically getting a long list of native species that host moths and butterflies.
Cool.
And
I was
now-
just gonna add. I was just gonna end it. I think with a story. My wife and I actually. I found some praying mantis. I found an egg colony sac, I guess what you will, on a praying mantis on a crabapple tree that I've had in a pot for the past 2 years that I haven't planted because that's just
Because
part of it.
you have like 20.
I got like 20 plants I haven't planted yet. Anyway, it hatched, and they were hatching, like literally hatching. We saw them, and they were small, and they were coming out. And
They're so cute.
they're not cute
Yes,
to me.
they are.
They're little aliens, and I don't like them.
They're so cool.
I didn't want them on me. And I didn't want them around me, really. But
How
I
many
told
would
Jilly.
you say were in there?
Oh, it was like 15, I'd say. 12 to 15 of them
I thought you'd be
crawling
like
around.
1,500.
No, not that many.
Adorable.
They were all crawling around this crabapple tree, and I had an issue with my hibiscus plants who had some sawfly larvae eating on the leaves. So I told my wife, who's much braver than me when it comes to touching things like insects and reptiles and all that. I'm kind of yuck on that. She just takes over, and she was taking all these little baby praying mantises and putting them all over the different plants around the yard. And we've noticed as we've watched them grow, they've gotten bigger, and they've stayed kind of on those plants to kind of help out with our bug population. So
Things get bigger as they
it
grow.
was fun. It was fun. They're still you can still go out there and find them sometimes. They're a little bit harder to find now, but they've gotten bigger, and we did that. So I'm proud of that. And yes, no,
did
you're
that.
right.
As
You're
in
right. Not
she
me.
did
Jill
that.
did that.
Yes, she takes
get
care
2
of
thumbs
those.
Way to go, Jill.
Yeah, get it, Jill.
I hope she's watching. Shout out, Jilly. Love you.
So, if you have a mouse trap set in the house, Austin, and a mouse gets on there, who takes care of that?
That's usually me. The dead stuff I can
okay.
deal with. Yeah, Jill doesn't like death with animals, so that I take
Okay.
care of that.
I'm just trying to get a better picture here.
No, it's the live ones
works.
that move and yuck. I don't like.
I love having a praying mantis on my finger to hold it up and let it turn its head and look at me. I just think that's the coolest thing.
You're right. It is cool, just not on me. Like,
You look uncomfortable right now just thinking about it.
you know, I've got
I had
a customer yesterday. Actually, I loaded up his van and a little lizard popped out, and he was from New Zealand. He was a very cool guy. Shout out to him. I have no clue what
The
your
lizard
name is.
or the man?
The lizard.
I had a same question.
No, he was a fun guy from New Zealand. He's here for the music scene in Nashville and got the whole story, and I helped him for a while. But I loaded up his plants, and there was this little green lizard that popped out, and I was like, ugh. And he was like, ooh, I want that. And he kept it and rode in his van right back home.
Oh.
So
I bet it was a green anole.
it was.
Yep, we have those
exactly
all
what it was.
over our greenhouse right now.
They're fun.
Caroline posted
And those
a TikTok
also help
of it.
out.
I did post a TikTok of it, which, by the way, we have a at-home show TikTok and a Bates Nursery TikTok that
Oh, man.
they're blowing up. They're blowing up.
That's
guys.
right.
Moving up.
Okay, Caroline, I know you got questions. We have been
Yeah,
I
we
do.
got
jabbering on. So
It's been great. It's
bring
been like
them.
coffee talks.
Yeah.
All right. Do I cut back my Hearty hibiscus in the fall?
Great question. Yes.
I'm not going to have to cut back mine because it died.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. I've got one that's
We've
not
been
looking
talking
great
about
either.
that.
We have been
Something's
talking
happening
about
to the hibiscus.
Or
what?
with a lot of perennials, you
Get in there.
you want to wait. I would wait till spring because there's a lot of insects who will overwinter in hollow stems, and
Yeah.
hibiscus is one of those that's hollow. So if you don't want to leave the whole thing up, most research says 18 inches and down is where they nest. So that's my 2 cents.
Yep. That's a good point. But yeah, they're going to come back from the roots every year, guys. So it's not needed to keep the stems up. If you really just hate them and want to get rid of them, that's certainly good practice and it's fine. But like Joy said, keeping some of them native insects around and in those stems is good as well. So either way.
Okay. Here we go. Next question.
Let's do
How
it.
and when is the best way for dividing and replanting irises?
Joy, take it away.
Oh.
So divisions in general, April, September are the best time to do divisions. And since September is closer, that's when you want to do it. Because you want the soil to still be warm to do those divisions so that you can get some root activity before it really gets cold. So that would be the best time.
And irises are pretty dang tough, y'all. I mean,
they are.
manhandle those things. And irises are bad about if they get too crowded. They don't bloom well for you if they're too tight and crowded. So separation is needed as the years go on with a lot of perennials actually, but irises specifically. So yeah, like Joy said, getting them whenever in September's a good time. Just go ahead and lift them and get them out of there, divide them and conquer.
Get the
And
Bermuda out.
one of those horticultural mathematical conundrums is in order for you to multiply them, you must divide them.
Dad, look at that.
So ponder on that one for just a moment. Hey, let's ponder for just another moment about where we are today. That's Bates Nursery and Garden Center. And if you want to get some one-on-one time with the experts here in studio or any of our other landscape professionals out on the lot, recommend you come out and see us. It really helps us a lot if you take pictures of the issue that you are dealing with. And what that does for us is it helps us to have insight on what's going on in your landscape. It could be a pest problem. It could be just an area of your house that's devoid of planting, or you've got something there and you don't know what it is or what you should do with it. Bring those out with you, and one of our folks will be glad to get with you, help you figure out how to get the right plant in the right place the first time. See, that's the way we try to do it here. It's not just drive-by landscaping. We're not really a big fan of that. I mean, it's cool to be able to just kind of randomly pick some things, but it tends to work out better if you have somewhat of a plan in mind, and you only get the best plan if you understand what your particular landscape situation is. And let's just face it, everybody's is a little bit different. Because of that, we carry the most complete inventory of plants anywhere in Middle Tennessee, probably anywhere for that matter. Whether you're talking about natives and perennials in Joy's area or tropicals over in Caroline's area, if you're talking about everything else kind of out there in the landscape, be it trees, shrubs, ground covers, ornamental plants of any kind, sun, shade, ground covers, doesn't matter. Austin and our other great staff here at Bates Nursery and Garden Center, Shannon, Adam, everybody, Taylor, we've got a great group of folks that can help you get those selections made and help you really get the information you need to be successful with it. One of the things we've got going on right now is we have extended our 20% off all plants. Now, there's a couple of exclusions, which are also noted in the newsletter, which are tropicals and also Japanese maples. But other than that, all plants are 20% off. And we're also giving you 20% off on Earth Mix landscaping bags. So check that out. And if you want to know what I've got in my newsletter this week, well, you just go to batesnursery.com and you click on this where it says read the newest update right here. And you click on that, and then magically it will pop up here. Losing it is what I wrote about this week. And if you've ever misplaced anything, and who hasn't? Sometimes I misplace it and I have it in my own hand. So it's amazing how others do things to me as if I perceive it when it's actually me doing it to me. So you might want to read that out. Hopefully you get a little gardening relief and enjoyment out of that. By the way, voting is still going on for Nashville Scene's Best of Nashville. We certainly appreciate you giving Bates Nursery a vote on that. And if you like what you read in my newsletter, would appreciate a vote there as well in the best local blog. And you can get to those links also by going through the newsletter here and reading down into the article. And they're down near the bottom there. You'll see they're in blue right down here at the bottom. So anyway, check that out. Remember this, Bates Nursery and Garden Center, we've been beautifying Nashville since 1932. This is our 90th year of business. We hope you'll come out and see us. Open from 9 until 4, Monday through Saturday. Closed on Sundays now until fall season. That'll be here before you know it. Bates Nursery and Garden Center.
Question from the Bates Nursery Facebook page. A viewer is asking if our 20% off all plants extends to these cool weather veggies and things that we just got in.
It absolutely does.
Uh-oh.
Right?
Cool.
Yeah, right.
Question answered.
Yes, it's all plants, excluding house plants, tropicals, and Japanese maples. So
Yeah.
Right.
enjoy it while we got it.
A lot of people don't realize that houseplants and tropicals are synonymous. They're the same thing. So I put it in the newsletter as tropical houseplants, hoping to kind of help everyone connect those things. But yes, those are the only exclusions. Everything else is fair game. So come on out and see us. It's a great opportunity.
And then a question for Joy. What is the name of the plant to bring in swallowtail butterflies?
Well, there's a lot of different swallowtails. So, like zebra swallowtail, that's the pawpaw. And then there's the black swallowtail. That's going to be things in the carrot family. So most people plant dill or parsley. Zizia is a native that we can. We've never found it since I've been here, but that is a host plant for them. There's also the spicebush swallowtail, and you can plant lindera, which is spicebush. And then there's also the pipevine swallowtail, which we have never carried pipevine. Some say that our native ginger, Asarum canadensis, is a host for that caterpillar. So those are the things that you can plant.
Great question.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So now that we've talked about things you can plant, let's also talk about
What's in bloom?
with Austin.
Yes.
Take it away.
All right. What's blooming? What's mainly still blooming? What is this? 6 weeks in, Crape Myrtles are still blooming. Y'all, they're still full show. They're not even barely giving up. They're still just out there doing their thing. Rosa Sharon, which is a type of hibiscus, still in full bloom. We've got a nice selection of hibiscus blooming their heads off right now. You can't barely beat it. Hydrangeas, the panicles, limelight, little lime, bobo, all those good white ones on a cone shape are still in full show, and those are kind of our biggest shrubby ones. In Joy's world, I know Joy loves grasses. Grasses are all showing off right now. They are really dancing above their foliage, looking good. I surely love to add grasses to a landscape. It's one we, I think, forget about, but good filler material for beds to add movement to your bed. And they're certainly blooming right now. Joe Pieweed, which is a native. Ironweed, which is those really tall, very purple weeds that are kind of growing in the fields as you drive along the roads right now. Those are really showing off, and they've got a really beautiful purple. It's not soft. It is true. Very, very true purple. So good-looking plants. We actually sell those as well. Echinacea still showing off. Rudbeckia, your black-eyed Susans, those are going to bloom forever. That's just what they do.
Mine looks amazing.
And then, hey, Joy, you know what else is blooming that you love? You don't love it.
Goldenrod.
Goldenrod is blooming, and you do love that. I meant to say that.
Close for 90.
Uh-huh. Now, what else is?
After.
Sweet autumn clematis.
Oh, no.
There
See,
it is.
Joy hates sweet autumn clematis.
Oh, no.
There it is. Yeah, sweet
Don't
autumn
say those
clematis
words out loud.
can be a little invasive if you let
little.
a little. Yeah, she's right. It's kind of a lot invasive. It's a pretty little vine though. Whenever it stays put, but you're right, it does move. But some of those vines you're seeing right now around town that are kind of crawling all over things and blooming white, they have a nice fragrance to them. That's sweet autumn clematis, and those are certainly in bloom right now. So there you go. That's what's in bloom.
Perfect. You did it. You nailed it.
Nailed it.
Wow. All right, we got 2 more questions. Are y'all ready?
We got a question from Josh
are
too.
ready.
After those questions.
Okay, let's get one here. We'll go to Josh, then we'll come back.
And then Joy needs to talk about proven winners.
Yes.
How to turn a fiddle
Oh,
leaf
absolutely.
fig
We don't want to forget that.
No.
into a tree. Did
Say
we
it
get
again.
that?
What? Say it again.
You don't get to hear it again. Only I will know the
How to
question.
turn a fiddle leaf fig into a tree.
Yes,
Oh.
there it is. Joy.
Sorry.
Joy. There's a lot of ways you can do this. My favorite way is just to chop it in half. That can be a little bit scary, but to me, when I've done it, I've tried all the different ways with fiddle leaf figs, with ficus, but it branched the most. So when I just chopped it, I did it in September, and it took until next spring for it to show any signs of life. It looked like a dead stick in a pot. So if you're going to do any of these techniques that I'll talk about, you'll want to do them now or wait until next, like mid-spring, when the days are really long, it's hot, and stuff is starting to wake up. But if you don't want to chop your plant in half, you have an option of pinching. When I say that, all you're going to do is pinch that new leaf off that's starting to come out of the top of the plant. You'll just break it off, and that's going to promote new growth. It's going to thus branch out. I mean, it might not. You always run the risk of it not happening. And then a third option is notching. I would say that's probably the safest option if you're a little worried about damaging your plant. But like I said, pruning, cutting on plants promotes new growth. But with notching, you'll pick a couple points right above where the leaf meets the stem. You'll take a nice sharp knife and literally just notch a tiny little, insert thing into that, and then come into the bottom. Words are a little bit hard when you haven't had enough coffee. And notch the bottom. So you're just going to take a little triangle out of that. And it'll take a while for that to show new growth. You'll want to do a few just to get it nice and even, because all of them probably won't flush. Now, we do sell fiddle leaf fig in a bush form here at the nursery, and a lot of places sell it like that. So if that's what you have, and that's what you're talking about, then you'll want to pick 1 leader, so 1 stem coming out of the plant. You can probably bring that plant out of the pot, cut it. There's a great video of Austin using a Sawzall to separate plants. That might be a good thing to use to get 1 stem to have that single tree form. Or if you have a very young plant, you can braid them together and then use one of those 3 methods, chopping, notching, or pinching, to then have your fiddle leaf branch out. Now, do know that wherever you take that notch, so if your plant is just this tall and you go ahead and you cut it or notch it, then it's going to be a little tiny tree form. It's going to branch from there. So you want to wait until it's more mature and tall, because that stem's not going to keep growing up. Once you take that cutting, that's where the branches will go from.
Well, that may just be what they're talking about. It may just be like they have a big bush and they just want it to look more like a tree. And then in that case, you're just going to prune off lower leaves.
Prune off the lower leaves and either, again, pick 1 stem, or you can braid them together, which I don't know why every time I say braid, we got to do the hands.
It's a great hand movement.
It looks like a butterfly, which we've talked a lot about today.
It does.
Another thing that you may not have realized that you can do with those 3 techniques is they can be used as defense mechanisms. You could chop and you can pinch. I don't know exactly how you notch somebody, but
Yes, you
but you might do that.
Get notched.
Get notched. I did braid my Audrey ficus, trimmed off of the lower leaves like Austin was talking about, and braided the stems. And it's probably only about 3 feet tall now, but it's got a cute little look about it. I have not chopped, notched, or pinched it yet. So, all right, Josh's question.
How do hollyhocks do in Tennessee?
Ooh.
I've grown them before. They didn't do wonderful.
That's a loaded question, isn't it,
Yeah.
Joey?
I've never successfully
right
done
about
it.
now is when they look like
Horrible.
doo-doo.
Yeah. They get rust really, really bad usually here. This year, it just depends year to year. Hollyhocks can do fine here. It's a biennial technically, so you kind of put it out in the first year, you don't get a great flower set, and then that second year they really produce a good amount of blooms. And whenever a hollyhock is in show, it's stunning. I mean, truly stunning. A really, really beautiful plant. But the leaves do not always stay clean. It's kind of like a rose in Middle Tennessee. Like, you can grow roses here, certainly, but are they going to stay clean for the whole season? Probably not. So, once again, do not expect perfection with your hollyhocks, but certainly grow them. I mean, they're beautiful when they're in bloom. Thanks,
They are.
Josh.
Nice and tall.
Josh, what are you
Great
doing?
Question.
I guess he can't talk back.
He's
Yeah, he's not sitting in the studio. Right?
He sent a photo. Hollyhocks are blooming where he's at. It's really beautiful. I can't put it
be
up right
north.
now.
Oh,
Where is
He's
it?
up in Idaho.
Idaho.
And he was going to call in this morning, but his cell service and internet connectivity is so poor. Well, he just can't make it today. So, Josh, we're thinking about you, but not very much.
Miss you, buddy.
He's doing if he's
Keeping
doing
your seat
play-by-play
warm.
commentary on the At Home Show Facebook page.
All right, let's get this last question in so Joy can take it away
Yeah.
with proven winners. What is good spacing for Japanese spurge?
This is a good question. Actually, we get a lot of spacing questions, and especially with ground covers. And this is mainly on y'all. How much money do you want to spend, and how full do you want it to be whenever you're done? Because you can space these things almost as far apart as you want, or almost as close together as you want. They're all going to vine out and just spread across each other and be on top of each other and all kind of live together. So spacing isn't necessarily all that crucial. I could tell you a foot apart, or I could tell you 6 inches apart. Either way, they're going to be fine. But how much money do you want to spend? Because you can really plug them in tight and make it look real pretty whenever you're done. But that's going to cost you a little bit more. So if you want to, save a little bit of money, space them a little bit further apart and let them grow together, that's fine practice as well. So
Yeah, and we
Yeah,
carry
the-
different
and
types of Japanese spurge, so pay attention to the label as to what the habit is and how big they
how
get.
vigorous they go. Yeah.
Yeah, but even the most vigorous are not particularly
Crazy.
aggressive growers.
Yeah.
So they're one of those that you might consider planting a little closer together, just to get the coverage to fill in more quickly. Otherwise, they can really be a while getting there. So without further ado, we need to go to
3
Joy and talk
minutes.
about proven winners.
3 minutes. Do you have photos?
Oh,
Hey, we got no time limit here, Joy. You get
Yes.
as much time as you need.
That's
so
right.
Don't you worry
I gotta
about
go
that.
show some perennials.
okay. Stand by, Joy. You can intro your talk and I will throw some stuff
so
up,
Julie is over procurement here at Bates Nursery for trees and shrubs and all things growing, and does a really great job at that. We were given the opportunity and honor to go to Michigan to the Proven Winners facility up in Grand Haven, which was amazing, and we had such a good time. We spent the
What
day.
was the motivation behind that? There was an award we got.
Yes,
was there not?
we were nominated by McCorkle, which is one of our vendors, as being one of their top sellers of their their product in general. But they carry a ton of Proven Winners product, so we were nominated by them. And we spent the day with their marketing teams and even their plant patent head guy who goes all over the world looking for new plants. We got a tour of where they do their trials, and they only select 2% of everything that they trial to become Proven Winners. So they throw out a lot of plants, but it's with the intention of finding the best plants that will perform in garden situations.
And I understand that you and Julie and everyone else in attendance was admonished severely about don't take any cuttings off of any plants.
Yeah. There was cops that followed. No, I'm just kidding.
We were tailed.
Yeah. But it was really, really awesome. They have different locations throughout the United States, more in the north. Spring Meadow is where they do all of their the cuttings for shrubs and trees, and then Walter's Gardens does their perennials. Pleasant View in New Hampshire does their annuals, and they just got a contract with a place called Leaf Joy in Virginia to do houseplants. So watch out for Proven Winners to have houseplants. But they do a really good job of biological control in their facilities and trying to do as many things organically as possible, and that was really encouraging to see. We also, Julie and I, were able to go to Winky and Hibiscus, which are two of our annual vendors, and they were doing the same thing, a lot of biological control, and just being able to see them in person and develop those relationships even further was really incredible for us to be able to do.
Well, it's good to know that the Proven Winners, Joy, are, I think, it really do strive to be true to the name and really try to develop plants and market plants that have met their criteria as far as how well they bloom, whatever other attributes you're looking for, and do so with a minimum amount of disruption.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of minimal amount of disruption, don't worry, we have not gone away. I am pulling up some photos that Joy has sent me from her trip.
Yeah. Also, they're coming out with more and more natives, which is they're also referred to as nativars. And there's a lot of research going into nativars these days. And right now, the consensus is as long as you don't change the color of the leaf, they are still attractive as a host plant to all our native insects. So nativars is really the main thing that people, I don't want to say complain about, but they're clones. So they don't you don't get that genetic diversity within the seeds that they develop. But as they function, there we go. As they function as host plants for natives, they do a great job. So that is a picture of, we were at Hibiscus, one of their growers, and we were given a tour by this guy named Eric, who was amazing, and he was just a source of so much information. That's where they trial all of their new annual material that they want to introduce the fall in the year to come. So if there's a new begonia coming out, it's a Viking something or other, and so they're trialing that new Viking with the old dragon wing to see how they perform differently. And he's a complete nerd about it and loves what he does, and so that he was just so excited to show us that section.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and he was also really into houseplants, and that's the houseplant room. That was unreal. I didn't add it. There's this caladium.
Euphorbia. Oh,
there was a caladium I've never seen before that he had in there, and he kind of gave us the insight. There's a lot of new tissue culture coming out of China, so we're going to be seeing a lot of new houseplants in production soon.
And we're not talking toilet tissue. We're talking not that kind of toilet, not that kind of tissue culture. No.
and what he grows for us is our 4-inch perennials, which I was able to ask him, what are you using any pesticides on these? What can we tell our customers? And specifically, even he uses as little pesticides as possible. And he said specifically with Asclepias or butterfly weed, it's only biological. So we can, with good conscience, sell them to our customers and say they have not been treated by anything that's going to affect the host plant, which is Asclepias is a host plant for the monarch caterpillar. Fungus gnats.
Fungus gnats.
Yeah.
I see them loaded.
Yeah, they need to clean it off, start over again. But yeah. So they were doing a great job.
I love the blocks of color.
Yes.
Look at all
There's the fall veggies that have already started arriving.
Yes, another thing to add, what's in front of Caroline and Austin, those are just ornamental vegetables. You don't want to eat those. They stress again the ornamentals that they grow. They do spray with pesticides. The ones that they grow is at
That is fantastic.
Baby mums.
Austin, what if you had that many boxwood lined up like
I love order like that.
I do too, but
I'm so jealous. I wanted to go with y'all. I'm mad.
Well, I mean, that's the first time
I'm
they
not
put
mad.
it on. Hopefully they'll put it on again and we can kind of shuffle through. But, it's so good for us to kind of leave this space that we're in every day to kind of see the bigger picture. So I'm certainly very grateful that I was able to go this time, but hopefully in the years to come we can
all
send
go.
some other, or just take turns.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Well,
you heard it,
and
David.
Speaking of which, the time to come is this time has come and gone. And we want to thank everyone for joining in this week. Joy, thank you for being here and sitting in so capably for Josh this
You're
week.
welcome.
Although you need to work on your irritating side because that's
I
what Josh does especially well.
Oh.
Well, I just get
He
irritated. I don't
does. He's-
irritate.
Okay, all right. Well, that's okay. And Austin, Caroline, thank you guys. Tyler, as always, thanks for keeping us
Certainly.
all going here. And we want to thank you for joining us once again. We'll be here again next week. Check us out anytime on our YouTube channel, and we look forward to seeing you soon here at the At Home Show.
20% off plants. Come out.
That's right.